So I'm going to start just really briefly with social media, and then we have a special guest star who's going to talk even more about social media. So within the ABA, we have a couple of different social media accounts, and linked here we have a page where we try to keep track for our own staff purposes of our social media accounts, and also so that members can access those. So we highly recommend, if you are a social media user, that you connect to, you link to, you use our ABA social media accounts. The first three are our general dispute resolution section, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter accounts. We also have some committees who have
Gina, quick question.
Yeah.
Gina, quick question. So anyone can go on the LinkedIn page for the section and post something. Is that correct? I mean, anyone that's
that is a really great question. Is that Jeff?
Yes, and I think it is the case,
okay.
Because I did go on it the other day and I posted something, but I was just wondering if someone edits that or looks at it or whatever. Probably, I'm assuming, yes.
Right. I'm fairly sure that Brandon Moore Rhodes on our staff, it looks at it, glances at it. We've changed those settings a little bit over the years, so that kind of reveals my ignorance. I don't have a whole lot to do with it, so I don't know what those access settings are these days.
Olivier and I did talk to Brandon, and he's going to give us some metrics and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be working with him on that.
Okay. And it's just a great thing to know that Brandon Moore Rhodes on our staff is our marketing and membership coordinator. And of the many, many things that Brandon does, he is our main point person on social media. So where you have questions, start with him. As Jeff has already revealed to you, don't start with me. So our Ombuds Committee, you can see here, has a couple of active accounts, and they use those for Ombuds Day and other events, and same for the Mediation Committee. They have an active LinkedIn group. And so if you, as committees, want to create your section of dispute resolution, insert committee name here, social media account, you can. We do have, of course, because we are the ABA, we have some policy guidance that we have to follow. And so what I'm pulling up right now is the fairly newly minted ABA social media policy that applies to members. We also have the additional policy that applies to those of us who are staff of what we need to be doing. So Brandon, when he is creating social media accounts and managing those, he has to follow staff policy, as well as the ABA wanted to be aware of the member policy that applies here. There are things here that are general good behavior, be nice out there on social media, that kind of stuff, as well as when ABA entities, and that includes us as the dispute resolution section and our committees, create accounts, we need to follow a few steps and just make sure we know that they are out there. Linda, is there anything you want to add about this policy?
No, I think it's fairly clear, and I don't think there's anything really controversial about it. We just ask that you read through it, that you follow the general guidelines. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, awesome. Well, then we are going to go to our special guest star. So Jeff Zeno, who you just heard from a moment, and is the chair of our marketing committee and is working with Olivier Andre to help us really step it up on our marketing, is going to be talking about social media for us.
Great. Thanks, Gina. Okay. I'll wait for you to pull that up.
It's hopefully here any moment. Here we go.
Okay, great. Okay, that's our first slide. Great. I did this presentation for first off for the New York State Bar Association last year. They wanted. I'm a member of their executive committee, and they were concerned about us not doing enough of social media as leaders, and that we have so many committees, and all of us should be pretty active on social media to promote our programs, promote what the section was doing. And it's been pretty effective, and I did this training for some of our executives on the executive committee, and now they're using a lot of social media. So if you can just go to the next slide, Gina, that'd be great. And I put this here because it's common sense. I mean, and a lot of this stuff is really basic, and I apologize if you're an expert on social media on this phone, but it is common sense, but a lot of people don't get it. And I saw that when we were doing these trainings, and now I'm starting to see some of the people through the New York State Bar Association being far more active, mostly on LinkedIn, but also Twitter, and it's helping us. And I want to see our section do that also. And I think if the leaders on this phone and other committees get more active on social media, we're going to see a lot more improvements in programs. We're going to see people being far more active, I think. And I love to hear when I go to a program that someone says to me, oh, I saw this just yesterday and I didn't know about it unless I saw it on your social media page. So that's something I like to hear, and I hear that quite frequently, which is kind of cool. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, why? Why social media? Well, it's free. In most cases, it is free. Okay, in some cases, you have to pay for premium services, but I don't pay for anything. I just do the free parts on LinkedIn, and that's great that it is free. It's easy and it's not time consuming. Now, a lot of people look at my LinkedIn page and go, wow, Jeff, is that all you do all day is sit on your on LinkedIn? And I don't. I have a day job, and I do a lot of things for the AAA and for our panel. So it's not that time consuming. I do a lot of my posting when I'm on a boring conference call. Hopefully, this is not a boring conference call for you guys, or when I'm walking to meetings, or when I'm on a subway. That's when I do a lot of postings, and it doesn't take time. It takes a couple of minutes, if that. And if you're sharing something or commenting on something, it takes seconds. So it is easy. Don't be intimidated by it. And when you see people posting a lot of times they're cutting and pasting things. Like people will email me something and I'll just cut and paste it, and that takes seconds. It's growing, and if you are active on LinkedIn or you go onto LinkedIn now, you'll see that it is growing, and so many major law firms are using it. Most major law firms have a LinkedIn page. We have so many LinkedIn pages in the ABA, all the different bar associations across the country. They're very, very active on these sites, so it's really important that we become more active. Also, why? The spam laws. This was a problem at my company where we were doing a lot of email blasts, and there are spam laws out there right now where you can get fined. So we've cut back on the email blast, and we're relying more on social media through the various bar associations and through my company. So these are the reasons why I think that we got to really kind of focus on social media. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, for the next slide. Okay. This is for your personal benefit. You should always Google yourself. I'm sure everyone on this call has done that, okay? It's the free advertisement about you, okay? And take a look at it. Sometimes you might not like what you see, okay? And there are scrubbing companies out there that you can pay to have some things scrubbed off your page or put things in a different order. But you should take a look every once in a while and see what your media or your social media presence is. If you go to the next slide, Gina. Hell, thanks for doing this, Gina. I appreciate it. You'll see a nice social media presence of one of our arbitrators. She's a well-known female arbitrator on the AAA's panel, Edna Sussman, and you'll see she has a lot of nice things there. When you open it up, you see that she is, you see her arbitration firm. You see pictures of her. You see that she's an adjunct professor at Fordham Law. You see her LinkedIn page. You can go right into that. So it's a nice social media presence, and that's what you want. And that's what, people are, researching these things. Law firms do extensive research, through social media. I deal with a lot of law firms that deal with a lot of people on my panel, arbitrators, and they say they look at everything on social media. So just be aware of that and don't be intimidated by that. And if you can go to the next slide. And if you're an arbitrator on this phone call, and I do a lot with arbitrators, so I apologize, but this is a disclaimer. If you're an arbitrator, you should use a disclaimer, okay, in your notice of appointment and various documents that you submit. And this is great language that we put together. I put in the middle there, and I'm not sure if you know about this, you probably do. LinkedIn now features endorsements, which I do not seek and have no control over who may endorse me for different skills. So just be aware that people can endorse you for things that really you're not qualified to be endorsed for. And I'll give you an example. I haven't practiced law in many years. I've been at AAA for several years, and I get every once in a while someone saying I'm a trial expert. I get endorsed for that. So that's kind of a silly thing out there. You can turn it off. Okay, endorsements. I don't specifically know how to do it, but it's easy to do, I hear. So if you don't want that, I would recommend you turning that off.
Hi, Jeff. This is Anish. Just a question on this disclaimer, because it's actually quite interesting, because I practice as an arbitrator, and one of my concerns is precisely this. Has this disclaimer been tested in any court in the U.S. or in the federal court?
Not that. Great question. Not that I'm aware of. Okay, I have not heard of any issues so far with social media with respect to the cases that I'm aware of through my company. So I'm not aware, and I haven't really heard any stories. But I do hear occasionally from arbitrators that get upset when they're here at my office and they're going into a hearing and one of the witnesses is trying to link up with them. So I do hear that. But this language we believe is what should be used, but I have not heard it being tested yet in court.
Okay, perfect. Because I have this precise issue where, especially students or young lawyers, reach out to me either just after I've finished a hearing as an arbitrator, and they'll want to add me for career guidance while I'm acting as an arbitrator. And one of the law firms that's acting and representing one of the parties, they're interning with them. And sometimes and sometimes the issue is they don't update the latest place where they're interning on their LinkedIn profile. So I only sometimes get to know after the fact.
That's a really good point, and you have to be careful. But you shouldn't shy. It was like some arbitrators, because of that problem that you're talking about, avoid using social media, and I think that's wrong. And I tell them that don't do that because, even at my company, and I know the other institutions, we use LinkedIn to look up arbitrators. Even though we have a ton of information on our panel, we will use LinkedIn and look them up. So don't let it scare you away from social media, but you're making a great point. You have to be very careful.
Just to weigh in, this is Laura. Ruth Glick and I actually did a presentation at the annual meeting a few years ago on arbitrator disclosure in the internet age, and we focused on social media and this exact issue. And I don't have the presentation currently, but I could reach out to Ruth. I'm sure she still has it. But the takeaway was precisely what you just said. It's wholly impractical to pretend that you can avoid social media in our current environment.
Exactly.
Everyone has it. It's ubiquitous. Everyone's on listservs and LinkedIn and Facebook, et cetera, although less Facebook nowadays. And it's impossible to avoid those kind of entanglements. But the disclaimer that you've put up is similar to the one that Ruth had as an example during our presentation. Typically, that will cover it. And I've done extensive research on challenges to arbitrators based on connections through social media. And there's not a lot of law out there.
There isn't.
The rules certainly haven't caught up with it, but it is a very tenuous argument at best. And I would not be at all afraid to fight that if anyone were to raise that as a challenge.
Sure.
And
Great point.
Just taking from what you just said, if I may, you said you've done extensive research in terms of how courts have viewed such a challenge. Have you come across, because I actually like this disclaimer wording that I'm seeing in my screen right now, and I intend to use it. Have you come across any judicial precedent where this was raised as a challenge and someone has used a similar, if not the same disclaimer that either we see on our screen right now or what you and Ruth had on your presentation, and then the court then said, hang on, sorry, this disclaimer is there, I see no problem now?
So this is Linda real quick, and I'm not going to stop you from answering, but we've got a little bit of a crowded agenda. I see.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I see a webinar or podcast in the future on this issue. So let's kind of put that on the side and go ahead and answer the question. But I do think we need to move on.
Yeah, that's fine. My short answer is no, but the last time I looked at this was a couple of years ago. So unless something has come up in that intervening period, which it might have, I'm not aware of any precedent on that.
Sure.
Okay, great. Well, great points, guys, and thank you. If you can go to the next slide, Gina. Okay, this is a great guideline or guidance note, arbitration in social media by the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. If you go into the internet and type in guidance note, arbitration in social media, that document will come up. That was put together again by the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators a few years ago. It's a great guideline, so take a look at that. I highly recommend it. I worked on it with a bunch of arbitrators a few years back. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, and we should determine what social media. I know, Gina showed us all the social media that we have, and we have a lot. Okay, we have Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Like Gina said, I'm not a big fan of Facebook except for personal stuff, and I just post pictures of my kids. But for professional purposes, I really wouldn't use Facebook. But I know a lot of institutions do, and the ABA does. But I would recommend for us to promote things, either LinkedIn or Twitter. And you can join your LinkedIn and Twitter accounts. So if you post something on LinkedIn, you can automatically be posted on Twitter simultaneously. But I think Twitter is more for the media and our president, I guess. And I would stick more to LinkedIn. Okay. So if you move to the next slide, please. Okay. It's a social. Okay. I put here. It's called social media. Okay. So if you have an account, you got to be social. You can't just put your account out there and not do anything with it and let it be dormant. So there's three ways of being active in a passive way on LinkedIn, and you're probably already familiar with this, but a lot of people don't do it, and I think it's something that you should do because it'll get our content from our section out there. If all of us are doing this in our section, it's going to get a lot of content out there. So if you like something that's out there by the ABA, all of your network will see it. If you make a comment, that's great, but beware that if you make a comment, it's going to be public. So be careful about that. And then sharing, okay, taking that actual picture or that actual content and sharing it on your page. And sharing is a little bit different than liking. It's kind of like making a comment. You have the ability to post a comment and to tag people, and I'll go over that in a few minutes. So if you can go to the next slide. Okay, it's different. There's social media emailing also, okay, in the sense that you email through LinkedIn or through Twitter, okay? It's different than email. They say it's a higher percentage of open rate because it's different than what you normally get. We get probably hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. This is a little different. It pops up on your phone, and people say that if you do a LinkedIn message to someone, they usually do open it up. So just be aware of that, but don't use it to solicit business, okay? But it is kind of a neat thing to use. I don't use it a lot, but when someone does send me a LinkedIn message, I usually do respond. So just be aware of that. Okay, the next slide. Okay, posting. I say 20 times per month to be relevant, okay, if you have a LinkedIn page or a Twitter page. Just remember, LinkedIn is not Facebook. I mentioned that before, okay? It's not for personal use. It's for more professional use. So you should put substantive content on there, trending articles, and obviously ABA things, and what we're doing in the ABA. And photos and videos you can do now, which are great. And videos, I haven't done too many videos, but you can do videos. And if you mention someone, okay, make sure you tag them, okay? And you see over to the right-hand side the names of some of my colleagues, Michael Clark, Andrew Barton. I tag them. That's why they're in blue. So when you tag them, that means they're going to get an email telling them that if they set up their system right, they're going to get an email telling them that Jeff Zeno just tagged you. And it's kind of a nice thing to be tagged on some things, and then it gets onto their network also. So just remember you can do that, and how you do it is just put the @ and their name, and up will come up their name. Okay, so it's pretty easy. There's links. Always provide a link. If you're going to, I hate when I go into a LinkedIn page, and it's just a one page of an article, and that's it. One page of an article, and I start reading it, and then I can't read the rest of the article, and I have to message the person. So make sure if you post an article or a photo of an article, make sure you put the link there also, because LinkedIn no longer allows PDFs. They used to a few years ago. They don't allow that now. Remember, it's easier to use your phone and tablet to do this stuff. It's a lot more challenging to do it from your PC. I do most of my postings from an iPad or from an iPhone, and it's a lot easier. And then if you look over to the right, okay, the right-hand side, you'll see share via, edit post, delete post, disable. If you hit the little three dots up top, that'll come down, and if you posted something and you misspelled something, you can edit. So just remember, be careful about that. There's no spell check on LinkedIn, so check your postings and remember to edit. And if you don't like something, delete it. Okay, so just remember that those features are there. Okay, you can go to the next Okay, and if you're going to post, okay, be effective in your posting. Draw attention. I go online a lot and I see things that don't draw my attention. For example, this gentleman off to the left, he's probably a very nice guy, but this is a kind of a boring post. He did put a link there, which is good, but it doesn't draw your attention. If you look over to the right, I think this kind of posting is more effective, where you put a picture. Add a picture in there. Like when I do any postings for ABA events, I always make sure that the ABA logo is there, and photos of the people that are speaking at the event are also there, and this helps draw attention to the posting. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, and how do you do that? I mean, there's various programs that are called like Pick Stitch, okay, and there's a photo collage. And from PicStitch, you get these various samples, okay? You can get classic, fancy, and then you can design something. Again, this doesn't take long. It takes all of like a couple of minutes to do this kind of stuff. And this program is great, PicStitch for iPhones, and all the other type of phones have these type of programs. And I recommend when you go to an event, or you're trying to promote an event, or if you're at an event taking photos, don't just keep on posting the photos in separate LinkedIn posts. Put them all into one little collage and post that, okay? It's not as annoying as someone posting 5 or 6 posts at the same event. Do it all in one post, okay? You can go to the next slide. Okay, and these are some of these samples of some that draw your attention. I'm sorry, I do a lot of posting for AAA. I don't mean to be waving the AAA flag here, but that's you know, a lot of the postings that I do at my office. And you can do some fancy ones, pictures, and these do draw your attention to the post. Okay, the next slide, please. And these are just another example. Actually, this gentleman right here to the left, we're doing a program for him tonight on his summaries, his case summaries, and that's the posting that I did of him. I put a picture in there. In the past, some people would just put that document, the case summaries, and that's kind of boring. Always try to add in a picture. Okay, you can go to the next. Okay, and I call this the rule of 3. If you're going to attend ABA programs, I'm attending one tomorrow, the ABA Business Law section in DC. I call it the rule of 3. If you're speaking on a program or you're promoting a program, when the registration starts, you promote it then, do a LinkedIn post or a Twitter post with the link to the program. A few days before, remind people that the program's coming up, and then the day of, take some photos of the speakers and all that kind of stuff to promote the ABA or whatever event that you're trying to promote. And avoid, like I said before, avoid multiple postings on the day of the event, okay? That is kind of rather annoying when people are just doing 5 or 6 postings of the same event. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, and the metrics, it's kind of cool. You probably, if you use LinkedIn, you know that there's kind of cool metrics out there. Okay, you can see who's viewed your profile. You can look at your most recent post. You can see the one that says who's viewed your profile, where it says plus 133% since last week. That's kind of neat to see when you post certain things. Like if I posted something about the ABA, something that's going on tomorrow, it's neat when I see a spike. Then I know that there's a lot of people that I'm connected to that are interested in the ABA event. So monitor that. If you're going to do social media postings, monitor, see when you get a spike in how many people are looking at what you've been posting. And then the last little thing here says, who is searching you? Okay, you see off to the right, the far right, it says 12% are lawyers, 7% are business strategists. So you can see what professions are looking at you. And that's kind of important too for your strategy on a nice social media presence. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. Okay, these are things to avoid. Okay, I mentioned this before. Don't forget the purpose of LinkedIn for professional purposes and to be social. Okay, and to promote what we're doing. You know, promote the ABA, promote our section, promote events, promote membership. Okay, don't confuse it with LinkedIn. I mentioned, or Instagram. Okay, don't post any personal information on your LinkedIn page. Don't use the wrong photo. Now, I have some arbitrators that sometimes post a photo from like 20 years ago, okay, and they shouldn't be doing that. You got to post a current picture of yourself, a professional photo. No kids, obviously, family, animals, and again, outdated photos. When I look on a LinkedIn page, it's very limited. Okay, and like it was mentioned earlier, you know, social media is here to stay, okay? And if you're going to use it effectively. So make sure your LinkedIn page, your Twitter page is complete, okay? Don't ignore LinkedIn messages. I mentioned that before. Don't forget to tag when you mention someone. That's important. Like the events that I'm going to this week in DC for the ABA, any post I do, I tag all the speakers. so they know that, so their universe sees what I'm doing. Okay, so it broadens the network that you're dealing with. If you never like, comment, or share, you're being a dormant user of social media. Try to do that more often. And don't ask people for recommendations or referrals. Avoid that. If you're an arbitrator or mediator, no social media disclaimer. Make sure you have a social media disclaimer. And don't do false endorsements. That I can't stress enough. You don't want to do that. You can go to the next slide. Okay, and I showed this. These are New York State Bar Association members. And I just want to show them that the guy in the middle, David Singer, he was doing it right. He had a picture of the skyline behind his head. Okay, you don't want to do the standard LinkedIn thing behind your head. You want to make it more eye-pleasing. Now, I can't stress, I think that's the last slide. Let me see, one second. Yeah, that's the last slide. I can't stress how important I think social media is for this section and how I think we can really grow using it. And if we effectively use it amongst the leaders of all the various committees, if everyone was doing this, we'd get a lot more, I think, participants at programs. We get a lot more members, and we're seeing that, again, I can't stress this enough, I'm seeing that at my company, where we're trying to have our VPs at the AAA, all of our VPs around the country doing more social media, okay, and professional social media, promoting things. So that's my presentation, and if you have any additional questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thanks so much, Jeff. That was really great.
Yep.
And I'll just repeat what Jeff just said, that we as staff, we do a fair amount of social media posting, and Brandon can post something on Facebook and I will like it. But if our members and leaders are not picking it up, it's not, it doesn't do a whole lot of good. But if you guys are out there and you amplify that message, it's incredibly powerful for folks to see you guys.
And Jeff, just real quickly, this is Linda. I mean, some people are afraid to use social media. Is there any place that you could maybe point to people to where they can learn how to protect themselves if they've got those kinds of concerns?
That's a great question. I don't actually. I can, except for I guess just like attending programs on. There's a lot of programs on social media nowadays that are popping up. Social media for lawyers, social media for other professions. So maybe look for those. That might help them feel a little bit more confident. Because like was mentioned in the call, there's a program that was done in California. Was that last year? The program on social media.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff, I think, I would highly recommend that, and as I'm sure there's plenty of programs out there about this kind of stuff.
Thanks, Jeff.